welcome everyone to another episode of the Waters Runs Deep podcast. How's everyone doing, Amanda?
Well, I'm feeling a little rough today, but I'm here and I'm ready to laugh and talk with y'all.
All right, great. Can you move your phone away from the microphone? Thank you.
It's not near it. It's like back here.
Is somebody's phone near the microphone?
No, I think Savannah's might have been setting it off.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, let me rephrase that. Fuck off.
David, how
It's
you
not
doing?
nice. I'm good. I'm here tonight with Savannah. We got my daughter Savannah joining the show.
Hi, everyone.
Great. On this episode, we're going to discuss the Dylatov Pass Incident, but first, we're going to knock out a Florida man story. Savannah, you want to take that away?
A Florida man was arrested Monday and charged with assault of a deadly weapon without intent to kill after allegedly throwing an alligator through a fast food chain's drive-thru window in October. Joshua James, 24, threw a 3.5-foot alligator through a Palm Beach County Wendy's drive-thru window nearly 4 months ago, according to Florida Fish and Wildlife and conservation officials. He was also charged with illegally possessing an alligator and petty theft.
Many questions about that one.
I'm sure.
How does one get an alligator?
Well, from this story, it says that he found this said alligator that visited Wendy's on the side of the road and decided to pick him up and make him his passenger in the truck.
Really, the alligator went to Wendy's, and that's where he
Well,
found
the
it?
alligator went to Wendy's in his truck. After he got his drink, he said, "Here, I'll trade you. Drink for an alligator."
Oh, got it. Was it a big alligator? It had to be a little alligator, right? I mean, I can't imagine it was a big
3.5
one.
feet.
That's pretty big.
3.5 feet.
I was going to say, that's enough alligator for me. If somebody comes throwing that at me, that's going to be a
That'll
sure
take a
surprise.
hand.
Probably have to, because those windows aren't very
They got a nice little
big.
picture of said alligator at Wendy's. He's kind of standing, I guess, by one of the cooktops or something. Let me see if I can get it up for you guys.
Nice.
There's your 3.5-foot alligator.
That's a good sized alligator. I mean, they
Yeah,
would have had to
that's
stuff
pretty
that
great.
through the window.
He straight up missiled that bad boy right through the window.
Yeah, we have to get that picture up on our Instagram.
Yeah, I'll send that one to you. That way, I have my Instagram specialist right here, so I'll just let her get that.
There you go. Heard
There
the
you go.
screenshot. All right. Well, that was a definite interesting man story. All right, so from here, we're going to get into our topic, the Dyatlov Pass Incident. So this one's a tough one. I was explaining to Amanda, David, everyone before the episode. This was a difficult one because there's so many facts, so many twists and turns and possibilities this story has. So I did my best gathering this together. So we're just going to jump into it and see where we get. So the incident starts on January 23rd, 1959. 10 Ural Polytechnic University students set out on a hike to reach Mount Torton. All the hikers were currently level 2 hikers. So level 2, apparently they're progressing through the levels within this club they're in. And level 3 is the highest. And apparently they're going to get level 3 upon their return from this trip that they're taking. So they were approved for 11 students to make the trip originally, but one of the students was unable to go at the beginning because he was set to take another excursion at the same time. Igor Dyatlov, which is the leader and what the incident's named after as their leader, have reported he would telegram upon their return to Vizhai. I'm going to apologize up front. I may be mispronouncing all of these words, but I'm going to give it my best, or most of them are Russian. So
You need
upon
to
the
throw some
return...
Russian accent at it, Chris.
Yeah, that ain't going to happen. I'm terrible at accents.
Would you like me to say their name? We have Igor Alechevich del Dyatlov.
Oh, you did pretty good on that one.
And then
So-
Yuri Nikolaevich Doroshenko.
Better than I can. You're going to have to read the names. So he was supposed to, upon the return, he was going to telegram letting them know that they had returned no later than the 12th. So they left on the 23rd of January and should have been back no later than February 12th.
They went hiking in the winter in Russia.
Yeah. Apparently,
Every day is winter in Russia. What are you talking about?
True. And
That sounds like
apparently-
a musical. Every day is winter in Russia. And there's
So
like
they-
the lead song in Anastasia.
There you go.
So they left with plenty of equipment and food and everything to travel 200 miles in 16 days. And of course, between the 23rd and the 12th is a little more than 16, but they left a cushion there, I guess. So there was a total of 8 men and 2 women. And here are the name of those. Amanda already named a few of them. Amanda, if you want to name them and then also give their supposed cause of death.
I can do that. So we have Igor Alexeyevich Dyatlov. He was 23 years old and he died of hyperthermia. Wait, he was 23 and he was the leader? I'll save my commentary to the end.
He was a great climber.
Yeah. Right.
He just had the most experience out of the group.
Oh, okay.
At 23 years old, how do you gain like the most experience out of all these people climbing mountains? You're just
I guess
screw
Go on
school.
lots of height.
Yeah, he grew up climbing them, I guess.
All right. We have Yuri Nikolaevich Doroshenko. He died of cuts and bruises to the eyes and nose and hypothermia. Ludmila Alexandrovna Dubinina. That was a female. She's a female. Right, Chris? Yeah.
Yes.
She died of internal bleeding from severe chest trauma. Ribs flexed and punctured the heart. She also was missing her eyes and a tongue. Holy fuck. Okay. Georgie, who they actually call Yuri, Alexeyevich Krivoneshko. Shenko. That's Shenko. He died of bruises to the forehead and temple, knuckles and fingers bruised and burned, burns to the left leg, and hyperthermia. Alexander Sergeyevich Kolotovo died of a sizable wound behind his ear. What classifies a sizable wound?
So it was like the size of I think it was like a golf ball size like impression into the side of his skull where he was hit. They think he was hit with something. And the reason I'm having to name all these off in the beginning, kind of go over what they were found dead by. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the Dylatov Pass and know that they all die at the end. I mean, it's pretty apparent, but the reason I'm doing this is because as we go over the rest of the story, it's kind of keep in mind how these, people had died. That's kind of why I did it that way.
That's crazy. Alexander also had a neck cartilage that had been damaged and hypothermia. I don't think the hypothermia is what got him, if we're going to be honest. I'm going to go with the sizable wound in the neck. But
yeah.
Zinadia Alexeyevna Komogrovio, that is the other female.
Yes.
She died of hyperthermia. Rustem Vladimir Vrokich Slablodin, hyperthermia. Nikolai Vladimir Vorkich Tripido Brignolis. Probably has a French father, because that's a French last name. But poor Nikolai died of a fatal skull injury in the right temple. Okay. Semyon, who they called Alexander, Alexeyevich Zolotovario, died of a severe chest trauma. He was 38, so he was like their grandpa.
I'm going to need you to calm down with the grandpa.
Yeah, he was the oldest of the group, yep.
So he was the fossil they were hunting.
Nice.
And then this one, I actually really like that his parents, this next one, I appreciate the names. Yuri Yufimovich Udin. Why? That is some initials. You can never get him wrong. And Yuri was the only one to live because he left the expedition on the 28th because he had a back injury.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he lived, right?
Yeah, he died in 2013,
Okay.
actually. So we'll talk a little bit more about he left. But yeah, he
Yuri.
lived. Yeah.
And I think for history, we should also note that these folks are born, most of them in the 30s. So like they're hardcore communism, like not Marxist, like Stalin, all that stuff, right?
Yes, deep into the communism for sure.
Their parents were born in the 30s. Is that what we're saying?
No.
they were born.
These cheeky-doos were born in the 30s. This is happening in the 1959.
Yeah, they died.
Oh, that's right.
So some of these peeps probably fought. Well, if they didn't fight in World War II, they probably have a brother or a sister who fought in World War II.
They didn't, but
And then-
Semyon Alexander, the 38-year-old, he did fight in World War II. So we'll talk
Yeah.
about that here in a second.
Yeah, get some, Ancient. Get some.
Yep. So on February 20th, the students' family were concerned as they had not returned from their trip. And they demand the university, military, and the police organize a search. So they left on the 23rd, and it's after the 12th now, and they're getting concerned that they haven't returned. So on the 20th,
The university had a military?
What's that?
The university had a military?
No, I'm saying the university, military, and the police were organized to perform a search.
Oxford commas
all
are
three
your
of them.
friend.
Yeah.
Of course,
It's
this
possible.
is Russia. You never know if the university had a military. But
That's a very good
Well,
point.
and this is also Russia, like right after World War II. So they have in Cold War. So they have the Gulag and all that still happening.
Yep. And actually, not too far from where they were camping at the Dyatlov Pass was one of the more famous Gulag, which we'll touch on that a little bit. On February 26, 1959, 3 cross-country skiers assisting the search discover a trash tent that appeared to be abandoned in a hurry. The tent appeared to have been ripped from the inside out, and the tent was found on the eastern slope of the Kielat Siyaki, or what they call Dead Mountain. In English, it's Dead Mountain. And
my first comment, I guess, why are you going up Dead Mountain?
Yeah, the Manzi people, that was what they called it up there, and I'll touch on that, yeah, for sure. If I'm called Dead Mountain, I probably would go. I'm not going to lie. It's just the name.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'd be like, yeah, you know what? Let's check it out.
Yeah. So not long after finding the tent, the 3 skiers noticed 2 male bodies under a cedar tree approximately 1 mile downhill from where the tent was located. So roughly a mile from where they found the tent, they found the first 2 bodies. They were able to follow their tracks from the tent, and that's how they were able to kind of track down it easily. And it looks like they kind of stayed together for the most part, but were leaving in a hurry, and coming from the tracks. So they were the only clothing the bodies had on were their underwear. So most of them were in their skivvies when they were found. And you got to remember, it's really cold. So the coldest month in the Ural Mountains is January. All right, with highs in the low teens and the lows in the upper negatives. The bodies were under a cedar tree, had obvious cuts and bruises. We spoke about some of the injuries. One had burns on their head and feet and cuts, bruises on their body, dry blood on the face, and a strange gray foam found on the cheek, which I couldn't find much more about the strange gray foam on the cheek. It doesn't sound like back then, of course, it's not like it's CSI times. They probably didn't even really look into it that much or have the means to sample it and find out what it was. So they don't have much information on the strange gray foam.
Try the gray stuff. It's delicious.
Yeah, right. Second had similar bruises, but was also missing the tip of their nose and bruises and cuts on the knuckles. So the tip of the nose thing missing is not too far off. If it's that cold, that stuff starts getting brittle, and that's where you get frostbitten first is, places like the nose, the fingertips, the toes, things like that. So that's not too far off from freezing to death, hypothermia type death.
Yeah, but does it fall off like that? It just like shears itself off?
Well, it's brittle. Yeah, it becomes extremely brittle, and it'll just kind of fall off. Yeah. So several yards away, the skiers found another male body. The body was found lying face up in the snow, hugging a tree branch. So this was Igor that they found hugging the tree branch. He had cuts and bruises on his knuckles and dried blood on his face, and the body appeared to be facing back towards the tent. So he appeared like he was figured out where the tent was, or was headed back to the tent for whatever reason, depending on which scenario you go with. So then the search party finds a young woman. She had a lot of bruises on her face, a long red bruise on her torso. Her hair was in disarray, which of course it would be in those type of elements. And her fists were clenched like she had been defending herself. So when they found her, she was frozen. And that could have been not only that it was defending herself, but it could have been that cold. When you get cold, you kind of ball up, including your fists. So I really wouldn't put the clenched fist as necessarily her defending herself. After a week of searching, the search party found a fifth body further up the slope away from the tent. It was another male with a fractured skull. He had a sock on one foot and a boot on the other. So he kind of was just all over the place. 6 weeks later, members of the local tribe in the area called the Manzi, they were assisting the search party. And this was apparently a prominent family that offered to help in the search. They led the search party to a makeshift snow shelter made by digging a hole into the ground. So apparently when you make a snow shelter in those kind of conditions, because that snow's 10, 15, 20 foot, foot deep, depending on where they're at. So in order to make a snow shelter, you just dig down into the snow, and that just gets you away from the elements. I mean, it's cold. You're in an ice box, but at least you're not getting the felt like temperature from the wind and everything.
But I think what they said in like an igloo, you get a little warmth. You're able to create warmth inside the igloo.
Yeah. You bundle up. If you're with somebody else, you can get close up together with them. You can also light a fire in that snow shelter. You're going to be able to do that because the snow on the outside is going to keep it from totally melting. I mean, it's going to melt a little bit, and the smoke's going to escape through the top. So it's really a smart way to do it. So
yeah, sure.
they were located about 250 feet away from the first two bodies. The search party digs down and finds sticks laid down like flooring and some torn pieces of clothing. A pair of sweatpants with the right leg completely cut off and the left half of a women's sweater. The search party digs further down the snow shelter and they discover 4 more bodies. So this was the total of the parties at 9. They were kind of, when they dug down and they had like those sticks laid down as like flooring, and they kind of were somewhat huddled together, but not directly on that piece of flooring that they made. So I don't know if they had like an alcove or the sticks were laid down for them to put the fire on it or how that worked, but they had were kind of off away from where the sticks were laid down for flooring. The bodies were lying somewhat close together, as I said, in a bed of a rocky stream. So those sticks and everything were laid on top of a rocky stream that was underneath the snow. One of them is a male with a severely twisted neck. Another is a female with a crushed rib cage. The ribs were so badly damaged they punctured her heart, as I spoke about a minute ago. Her eyes and tongue were also missing. The third is a male with a massive fracture to the side of the skull. The fourth appeared to have suffered from hypothermia. So the other 3 seemed to kind of be bumps and bruises. And I was seeing reports that those kind of injuries are reported for people that are like in a car accident or fall from a 50-foot plus. Just them tripping and falling from the distance of their height is not going to produce injuries like this.
How do you lose a tongue? Like, that's attached to something.
And they said,
well, that's good. Well, I was thinking about that. I mean, some of the ribs and the skull and stuff like that, I can attribute it to bears. But then when you get to the tongue and the eyes and what have you, the little thing's missing. I'm like, nah, bear's going to eat a little more than that.
Well,
yeah. And it's the thing about it is that, and also they were laying in a bed of a stream. So they said, the water could have eroded the eyes away because it's soft tissue. It's the first to break down. But this still doesn't explain the tongue. And it's not likely that they're going to totally remove the eyes. It's going to eat around the eye, and the eye is going to be the first to go. But there's going to be remnants because it's just washing away. It's not like it's attacking the eye specifically. It's just the first thing to go. So I'd still think there's remnants. And they were only out there less than a month before they were found. Or maybe 2 months. I think it was 2 months before they were found. So it's not like it was years they were sitting in that under that snow in a bed of stream. And like I said, the snow is going to preserve them for a bit too, the bodies.
Right. And wouldn't all of them be missing the eyes if one's eyes are missing?
Well, she was apparently laying face down in the stream, so she would have apparently gotten it more. But some of these bodies, I don't know if you guys had a second to look at the pictures of these. There's a ton of pictures from this incident, and the pictures of the bodies are just unbelievable. Some of them, a few of them look like mummies, like they had been sitting out there for years and years and years. It's just fascinating. So the family of the victims all say that they're way too smart to have and experienced to have accidentally frozen to death or gotten lost. So the family doesn't buy that they just got lost or disoriented and, died from hypothermia. They just don't buy that. So this guy, Lev Ivanov becomes the lead investigator in the case. So this is back in 1959. He becomes the lead investigator, and his first theory is murder. So that was the first thing they thought, is that they were murdered given the evidence. So the area that they were found is mostly uninhabited other than the Mansi people. It borders the Siberian wilderness. The area outside of there is known for Stalin's famous gulags. It's possible escaped prisoner from a gulag located a few miles away killed the students. However, the gulag did not have any missing prisoners. Investigators think the incident was more personal. Not only that, but all their gear was still there. It's not like they were missing their gear and, had to go. It just doesn't add up. If the person's going to kill them because whatever reason, they're going to take their gear and food and stuff as well. But all that stuff was still there, not touched.
Well, okay, so I know of one person that's had like a crushed rib where the rib speared the heart and it killed him. And I mean, that was Lane Frost. He was a bull rider. He took a bull's horn to the chest. Now, looking at that, and that's kind of what I'm basing what I'm about to say on. It's going to take a lot of pressure. And I mean, even with CPR, okay, I think all three of us are CPR certified. When you do CPR, they tell you to compress the chest and you're going to hear ribs crack. And they want you to use your body weight. So that's a lot of weight going into the ribs.
Yeah.
For ribs to be crushed.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a lot of hate for somebody to be crushing ribs and killing somebody.
Yeah.
Standing up. He would have to catch them, I would assume, laying down or something like that.
Well, that was they said about the head injuries. The head injuries they discovered were all given when the person was standing up, because there was nothing to, they could tell by the injuries that there was nothing to keep the neck stationary. They also, with the people that had one of the guys that had the chest injuries, the chest injury started literally just below his clavicle. So it's not like they were further down towards his belly. They literally, the injuries were just underneath his clavicle. So they were all upper chest.
Wow.
So yeah. So
and even up there, I mean, that's a lot more pressure to break those bones.
Yep. So Lev Ivanov becomes the lead investigator in the case, and he first thing he thinks is murder. That's where we left off. All right. So the 10th student was unable to continue the trip due to an injury. He claims he left the group at the second northern quarter of the way through the trip. So, and then once he left at that point, everyone was fine. The more they question him, he becomes increasingly nervous. So one thing that the investigators noted, the more they question him, it seems like Mr. Uden becomes increasingly nervous. So when he arrives
I'm sorry. Watching, and this is all movie based, but Russians aren't the kindest when they're questioning people. I'd be nervous if a Russian came up and said, "Hey, we got some questions." I'd be pooping my pants right away. I'd be like, I'm out.
Yeah. They definitely don't mess around when they're questioning people. So no doubt he was getting nervous. Plus, he was young. I mean, it's not like he's a seasoned war veteran. I mean, he's young. He's 20-something years old.
Right. If you'd have caught me at like 23 years old, even the local sheriff's office, "Hey, we got some questions for you." I'm pooping my pants.
Right. So they take him to the scene to help, see if he can help identify some of the items left at the scene. When he gets there, he acts with genuine surprise and shock when he sees the disarray or everything. So he was pretty convincing, I guess. So they kind of backed off. And he was also helped them discover some of the clothes found in the ravine did not belong to any of the students. And Uden's alibi also checks out. He was with his family in his hometown during when the students met their demise. So Lev Ivanov begins to suspect the Mansi people. All day they have been helpful throughout the investigation, including directing them to the 4 bodies near the snow shelter. That he still suspected that they were involved. Another name for the area the victims were found is Dead Mountain, which I mentioned in the beginning, and it's apparently a sacred place to the Mansi people. And 9 Mansi hunters were reported to be killed in that area prior to this incident happened to students. I couldn't find a date, although I found several places where it said it happened, but it was reportedly many, many years before, the Dylatov Pass Incident in 1959.
For some reason, when you first brought up the Mansi people, I was like, they like jumping in and helping search or what have you. I was like, wait a minute, wouldn't it be kind of odd if they killed these people and now they're helping search for them? I'd be like, that would probably be one of the first people I check with.
Yeah, yeah, and for sure. I mean, they're helpful, and it wasn't all the Manzi people. Apparently, it was only one prominent family of the Manzi people that was like extremely helpful. So those hunters were killed years before this incident
Did you know
happened.
the
and also,
Manzi people raise reindeer? They're reindeer raisers.
yeah, yep,
Oh, well, clearly they didn't have anything to do with it. I mean,
No.
if they had Rudolph and Dancer
Right.
and Donner and
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, I wonder if Santa was among them.
No,
Santa's the
Santa's
one that did it.
Canadian. Santa's Canadian.
did you just say Santa killed these people?
Yeah,
What do you think he does the other 364 days of the year?
yeah. He's
That's true.
like,
He gets a little bored. He would need some excitement in his life.
Oh my god, now we're
Whose
starting a new
TV
QAnon theory.
so it's prior to the or after the incident happened in 1991. A plane also crashed in that area and killed 9 people. So apparently, this place definitely has a knack for killing in the nines, because there are 3 different incidents relatively close to that area. 9 people have met their demise.
Maybe it's the Russian Bermuda Triangle.
It could be. It could be. Definitely could be. So they also could have upset the Manzi in some way during their trip. The Manzi could have snuck up on them during the night and placed something in their tent to cause them to hallucinate, and that could have caused them to run out of the tent afraid and gotten confused and then froze to death. So that's definitely a possibility, is that, the Manzi people, witch doctor or witch of the Manzi people, snuck up on them, cut the tent, chucked something in there to cause them to hallucinate. They all ran out, fought some people, some trees or whatever, and ended up dying. Who knows? So at that time, there's a lot of mistrust between the Manzi and the Russian people. The Russians were constantly encroaching on their territory. Although they were very helpful during the search and investigation, it was definitely a possibility that they could have been involved. So during the interrogation, the Manzi deny their involvement. However, they tell the investigators of fireballs that were seen in the sky around the time the students were killed. So once it was discovered the tent was cut from the inside out, the investigation was turned away from the Manzi. So, and I'm hearing mixed things now. That was back then in 59. They decided that the Manzi people weren't involved because the way the tent was cut. But now they're kind of like stepping that a little bit, and they're almost saying that the tent was cut from the outside in. So there's kind of mixed things about that. To me, it looks like, I'm no expert or anything, but for me, it looks like it was cut from the inside or the outside in, the way the cuts are, but it was cut pretty bad. There could have been both. I mean, it could be that it was cut from the outside. It was also cut from the inside. Somebody was trying to escape, couldn't get out, and they helped another person. Another person with a knife helped them from the outside in. It could have gone either way.
Well, Mike, why would you, unless something was attacking you in the front of the tent, why are you going out the back of the tent? Why are you cutting your tent?
Yeah.
That's your shelter from the cold and what have you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could be that the front was blocked by snow or by a threat. I mean, it could definitely have gone either way.
Do you have pictures of this tent?
I do. All right, so here's the tent, guys. This is how it was cut. I don't have any close-ups, but this is how it was cut. And to me, that it looks like, I mean, there's cuts all over this thing. Yeah, there's one big cut from here down, but there's all these other cuts. It was almost like multiple people were cutting at the same time. I mean, it just seems
It seems like there's a lot of slashes going on, like they were trying to cut somebody inside the tent almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like slashes and then like one big one almost maybe to get out or something. But yeah, there's small cuts trying to stab through it to get somebody. I mean, I definitely could buy that going from the tent for sure.
I mean, that would be my theory just from the picture. Like you said, I'm no expert or anything like that, but just from the picture, it looks like there were multiple cuts.
Yeah.
And I would only assume that would be trying to get somebody or whoever was on the inside or outside.
I mean, maybe it looks like it could be cut from the outside and the inside. Like someone was outside the tent.
Well, that's what Chris was saying.
Well, someone was outside the tent, but then they were also trying to get out at the same time. So both people were cutting at the same time.
Maybe they had a knife fight through the tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, I'd buy that. For sure.
What's the one with the circles? Click that. Oh, it's showing the tinier cuts.
Yeah, it's showing the other cuts, yeah. It's showing like one cut here, one cut here, one cut here, one cut here, and then I guess there's another picture to show the rest. Yeah,
Savannah, you
it's a
can
lot
post
of
that.
cuts. Yeah, here's another different way to look at it. I mean, that's just weird cuts to me, you know?
That's a big ass tent.
Well, you got to remember there's 9 of them, so
Sleeps 9.
they're all sleeping in the same.
Does it actually sleep 9, or does it sleep like 2 people? Because our 4 people tent tells me it's supposed to sleep like 6 or 4 people, and I know we're like fat people, but it don't fit that many people. It like barely fits 1 Adam, 1 Amanda, and a Libby. True.
Yeah, most of these black and white pictures are pictures they took on the way.
Do they find their camera?
Yeah, they find cameras, and I'll get into that a little bit. They find some cameras, they find journals, they find a bunch of stuff. So here's the whole group here. This is the guy that's 38, the 38-year-old grandpa.
Bastard.
And this is what the tent looked like when they found it. And I have another picture, a better picture. I'll show you that towards the end. But let's jump back into the story here. After sending the victims' clothes in for testing, they receive them back and discover some of the clothes have high concentrations of radioactivity. At this point, instead of following up on that lead, the lead investigator, Lev, puts the case as unsolved and does not continue to investigate. So he pretty much says they were killed by an unknown compelling force that they were unable to stop, is how it was listed.
Or so also the KBG.
Right. And the Soviet Union also forbids anyone from going up there to the location where it had happened. So they also cut everybody off from going up there. You can go up there now
I was going to ask, even still today.
Is it still considered Russia today, or is it like, well, who knows with today's climate, but
yeah, with today's climate, Ukraine's going to maybe be calling Russia here soon. So,
yeah, right.
Give it a little bit. We'll be back to the USSR.
Yeah.
Oh, you kids don't remember anything about that, do you?
No, Grandpa. Chris was like 4, and I was like 7.
So this next thing is a government cover-up. And in one of the cameras, they find the last picture it was found was an odd one. It's lights. Basically they think it's a picture of the fireballs that the Mansi people said saw in the sky.
Maybe it was aliens coming to abduct them.
That's what I had thought.
Well, see, and that's kind of what I thought when you said the gray stuff on the cheek, and then you brought up the fireballs and stuff like that. Now radiation. How do we know that the little gray people don't emit radiation when they touch you?
Right.
I think the radiation's a big key, and why we're not talking about radiation, I don't know.
Yeah. So this is what the picture is that they find on the camera, right here. And then
that's a great picture.
Yeah, it's a crappy picture. It is. And this is what the Mansi people say, like basically what they describe they saw in the sky that night. So it's fairly close. I mean, it's a crappy picture, but I could see the resemblance, you know?
Yeah, it almost looks like it's landing on top of them.
Yeah. So it's or it landed and they're walking up on it. This might not even be the sky because that looks like a stick or something right there.
That's true.
Yeah, like a tree branch.
Yeah. So definitely interesting on there. So the next one they think is a government cover-up. That's theory number 2. When the bodies were found, some of them had 3rd-degree burns and a slight orange tinge to them, which is possible for radiation poisoning. And given that with also the radioactivity, some of the clothes were emitting. It could have been a military weapons test gone wrong. So the Mansi people said they saw fireballs in the sky, so that makes sense. And as I showed you in one of the last photos of the hiker's camera, had some mysterious lights in the picture, which I just showed you guys a second ago. The photo was confirmed by experts to be a photo of something falling fast and not just like a flare, like a lens flare. It's definitely a picture of something falling fast and not a lens flare. A few weeks later, a separate group not far from the Dylatov Pass also reported seeing strange balls of light in the sky. So the people were hiking not far from where the Dylatov Pass group was a few weeks later, and they also observed these fireballs in the sky. And the friends and family of Igor Dyatlov, the leader, are certain that the Soviet military was involved in some sort of way. They believe that possibly the military was testing a rocket or some other type of ammunition that may have caused this incident. So Semyon Zolotaryou was believed to be a KGB spy, so he was the only one of the group that was not a student. He requested to join the expeditions weeks before their departure. He didn't know anyone from the group before that. He was some sort of tourism guide and needed to get one more expedition in as a requirement for his guide certificate. So I'm sure what he did is that he reached out to the Polytechnical University and said, "Hey, I need to go on a trip to get me leveled up. And, is there anybody that's going out that I can jump aboard with and go?" So that's what it sounds like he ended up doing. He's a single man of 38, which is apparently extremely odd for Russia at the time. So a man to be single in 38 in 1959 is apparently odd in Russia. So what do you got to say about that, David?
I'd be very odd right now.
Sorry, I had to go there.
More so odd than I already am.
He also had a lot of cryptic tattoos on his body, so I couldn't find anything like pictures or explanations of these tattoos. But it was just an odd detail. I mean, he's 38. He was in the Russian military. I don't really put too much weight on that he had cryptic tattoos. I mean, that's not that big a deal. Granted, it is 1959. It's not like tattoos were in that big of a thing, but I just don't, put too much weight into that. And at the beginning of the group, he asked everybody to call him Sasha, which I didn't.
Like a name of endearment, though, for a lot of
Really?
Yeah. And most people whose name, what's his middle name? I'm going to go back up to all the thousands of names you had me. Yeah. So Aleskev, like Alexander, Sasha is a nickname for Alexander in Russia. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then. Yeah. It's possible.
I know a lot about Russian history because I'm a little fascinated with Russia.
I don't know much about it at all.
Amanda, are you one of the Soviets?
No, I'm royalty. In a past life, I was a Russian royal.
That's probably a better
really
answer than
answering
what you said.
I wasn't high up, but yeah, I was Russian royal.
How'd you find this out?
I just know it.
Hook, line, and sinker.
That baby in. Look at this little pretty gullible fish I caught today, David. Is that a nice one?
It's a very nice crisp fish. I like that one.
Yeah, I definitely bit that one up. You were so sincere about it.
You swallowed that one.
Yeah, I was like, well, who the fuck was I in a past life then? I want to know. I was jealous what it was.
Clearly, whoever you make yourself up to be.
Yeah, it's whatever you say you were.
And you'll believe it. I mean,
no, but I did read Anna Karenina once, and it was awful, but it tells you a lot about Russian history, and that's how I knew about it. And I've read War and Peace.
Oh. Okay. So it's possible that they encountered the Russian military testing a weapon, and they found out that he was a KGB spy and killed them to cover it up. So it could have been that he was a KGB spy, which I don't know. I'd like to believe this because it's fascinating that actually went down up there, but I don't buy that. I feel like they would have cleaned it up better or made it look better than they did. And then, how would they have found out there that he was a KGB spy? That one has too many holes for me to believe that.
I guess if you start getting cold, you'll say anything.
Why would you care? Like, I guess it would be different if he was hiking Mount Everest with a bunch of Americans or whatever, but like, he's a comrade, right? Like, so I feel like that's just...
Apparently Russian government and KGB were not totally complete at that point. I guess they were feuding somewhat, kind of spying on each other type deal during that time.
I thought they were like one and the same.
Not 100%. They were, but they weren't. The military and the KGB like spied on each other because I think there were some issues with the Russian government feeling like the KGB had too much clout or too much power per se. So there was a lot of kind of issues like that going on, if I remember my history class correctly. Unfortunately, the film that was in his camera was destroyed by water. So his camera, they weren't able to get anything off of it, because that could have thrown some light into it. He might have had pictures of, whatever, if he's spying on them, he might have had pictures of that going on. But unfortunately, they weren't able to get the pictures off
And
there.
if you were a KGB spy and you had a camera, what would your last thing be if you're dying?
Dick pic.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Dick pic.
Okay, let's go with 59. I don't think they were shipping dick pics back and forth like we do today. Pretty sure that would have been a toss in the water.
Can you imagine, like, you get a letter, because, there wasn't text or email, and you're like, oh, I got a letter from Sasha today. Whoa! Dick pic.
Dick pic.
And Sasha's dick.
Oh, man.
Thinking about you, LOL.
Right?
You up.
You up. So the Polytechnical Institute apparently sticks by this theory. That's what I'd read. That's not a quote from them that they stick by this theory, but that was kind of what I was reading from different reports, that it was that was their theory, is that the Russian KGB thing going on there. So many years have passed at this point. It is now 1990. Oh yes, love the 90s. Mr. Led Ivanov, the lead investigator from 59, he rejoins the investigation and starts to push the cover-up story. He relates an article titled Mystery of the Fireballs. In the article, he states he was pushed to close the case and to not look further into the causes of death. The Soviet leaders feared their death was caused by weapons testing. So Yuri Yudin, the sole survivor, also believes the government is involved somehow. Upon his death in 2013, Yuri helps investigators inventory the items left by the expedition. So he kind of helped it on the site, kind of identify things, but then he helped them again with the complete set of the items that were found back in that time. So I'm not sure how well his memory works after 54 years, but I guess it was good enough. He found some inconsistencies upon his search. He'd found a military clock and a pair of glasses and an extra set of skis that did not belong to anyone in the group. He had a gut feeling that the scene was staged, so he kind of felt like the scene was staged. He had been camping with them, or not camping, he had been mountaineering with them. So I kind of hold his judgment high that if the scene's set up, then that's not how they normally set up their camp. I could buy that. He's going to know. He goes with them, and he had been with them, but he said he kind of felt like it was staged. So after the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991, the case files on the Dyatlov Pass Incident were finally made public. So up until 91, after the fall of the Soviet Union, the case had been kind of locked up to the government only, no civilians. So this gave private investigators a chance to solve the case. One of the investigators dug deep into the photos taken by the group. One of the photos shows a dark figure that could have possibly been a Yeti observing the group. And this was the last photo taken by Nikolai Thibault at the site. So I'll show you this picture right now. It's pretty interesting. I don't know. The more I look at it, I feel like it's not anything. I feel like it's just maybe one of the people in the group that they just took a photo of, and it didn't clear right, So I don't completely buy this one. Let me get it up here.
So we're about to see the dick pic that didn't really.
Yeah, it didn't come out. All right, so here he is here. So this is the last picture that was taken by the Mr. Thibault. You could see the thing peering behind the tree right there, and I could kind of buy that because it's kind of weird. It almost looks like they're hiding behind something, the person taking the picture, and so I kind of buy that. Otherwise it's a weird way to take the picture unless it's something abstract type of way of photographing.
Truth be told, it looks like superimposed. It looks like that was placed on that picture after the picture was taken.
You think so?
Does that make sense? Doesn't it to you though?
I mean, a little bit. They say that many experts have looked over the photo and say it is original. It's on the negatives, and that given the specs in the picture, the person or whatever humanoid figure in that picture is at least 10 feet tall.
Wow.
Yeah. So that kind of
Well, I
throws
mean,
me
like
off.
you said earlier, I'm no expert.
So
But,
that's how it
it
supports the
just,
Yeti.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But that's the only. I mean, other than like the skull fractures, the cracked chest, that's where the Yeti story kind of comes more into play for me. That's what happened. But other than that, I mean, there's not too much to explain of that a Yeti killed him. We'll also put that picture on our Instagram. I have two. I have one that's kind of more zoomed in of the picture as well. All right. So a lot of Russians believe the Yeti is responsible for killing the hiker. So one of the documentaries I'd watched, it was called A Compelling Force. It's a good one. You guys check it out. I got a lot of my information off that um, documentary. But they were interviewing the guy was taking a trip to the Dyatlov Pass with these current Russian guides, and he was kind of asking them individually, and a good chunk of them said that they believe that the Yeti was responsible. So the Mansi people have what they call a menk, which means forest giant in their language, and it's very similar to a Yeti. Investigators say the humanoid figure is approximately 10 feet tall. Around that time, the Mansi people had received several reports of the mink during during the time that they were mountaineering. The students write a paper prior to their expedition, and it states, in recent years, there's been a heated debate about the existence of Yeti. According to recent reports, the Yeti lives in the northern Ural near Mount Oratan. So they were definitely aware of the possibility of the Yeti or the mink being out there. So it's odd that they write that in a paper that they put out prior to the expedition. It was something for their class in the institute. And they put that in the paper, and that's exactly where they were trekking. So it was almost like they were looking for it. Maybe that was their side quest for this was they were also looking to see if they can find reports of the Yeti, you know? And the bodies did seem to experience terror and trauma, and appear to be defending themselves prior to their death. So it could have been that they were fighting off a Yeti. Definitely
Well, that
possible.
makes sense with the trauma to the chest and the trauma to the neck, and the amount of trauma, and like we spoke about, Chris, the the force for which their chests had taken and stuff like that. A 10-foot tall Yeti I would assume cause that trauma.
No doubt. No doubt.
But if that Yeti is 10 feet tall, how far are you going to get? Like, if you're as short as me, I'm 4'10". So, me against a 10-foot Yeti, I would not get very far.
But there was 9 of them. So you use that old saying that I don't have to be the fastest one, but I just have to be faster than you, So,
Yeah, but he still caught all 9 of them.
yeah. Well, he could have had his Yeti friends with him. Who knows?
Yeah, he said, "You're fast, little bastard, but just give
Didn't
me
we
time.
learn
I got
that last week that they travel in packs, that they're not
Yeah.
single
Well, there's
terrier
more
animals?
Yeah.
But do you think he was knocking or hooting? What do you think he told everybody? Whatever.
What was it?
It
It
was
sounds like Japanese, right?
Hey, they were doing a samurai
he
chatter.
spoke Japanese.
That's how the tent got cut. They were doing samurai chatter, and they had a samurai sword, and they started
Yes.
slicing
broke
up.
out his samurai sword. All right.
We solved the
He
problem.
sliced it up. That's
Figured it out.
We should be Russian investigators. We got this. This
I
is
know.
Case closed.
I think I
Case
just found our
closed.
next TLC Discovery Channel TV show.
Yep. Case
The
closed.
Waters Run
Podcast.
solving cases.
Yep.
Cases.
That's it. All right. So the bodies did seem. No, I did say that. We should also consider possibility they encountered a wild dog, wolverine, brown bear, even a Siberian tiger. That was they're known for being in that area. All those animals, so they could have been attacked by any one of those as well. The only thing
those
is,
animals would have more flesh would have been ripped from those.
exactly, and that also doesn't explain the one photo as well. And not only that, but brown bears hibernate during that time when the students were killed. So the brown bears, unless they woke up for a midwinter snack and just killed them and didn't eat them, I doubt a brown bear had did that to them. So in 2019, Russia reopens the case with current prosecutor at the time, Andrei Kurikov, and he takes the lead. So this is where they lead into the final, which is the most celebrated, I guess, by officials and most people. And I don't want to say everybody. Most people swear by this theory as this is what happened. So the group was killed by an avalanche. February 1st, 1959, the weather is at its most extreme in that area. So the temp below the teens and winds up to the 65 miles per hour. I had those at our house the past couple days. And I'm sure you got, Manny, you're familiar with those kind of winds. They're pretty wicked for winter. It's like it'll take a 20, 30-degree day down to way below, the teens.
We've been having like 2-degree weather here in Colorado. But I have to tell you that your Aunt Margaret has decided that she would like to buy wind chimes for my house, David. So she bought 4 wind chimes. And I said, Mark, I live in the mountains. You can't buy wind chimes because it's always windy here. It's insane.
Are they hanging?
Take the ones that are hanging up here.
Yeah, I hung them up. I regretfully hung them up, but because I love her and it was her birthday, I did it.
Was that an Amazon buy?
It was an Amazon buy. No, David, you better not eat. They all better be hanging up.
I will ship these up there to you, and you can hang these up. You can have her memoirs up there.
I'm not a fan of wind chimes.
There was a storm that came through here the other day, and I swear to God, I fell asleep on the couch because there was nothing else to do. It was getting cold, so I dozed off on the couch. One of the bars of the wind chime came off and fell on the concrete, and I hopped up in a very defensive manner.
I bet.
Ready to kill some old person breaking in the house.
I mean, who needs a ring system when you have wind chimes all over?
Right?
Oh, my God. It scared the daylights out of me. And they're always ringing. Always ringing.
Anyway, sorry, Chris. Back to our avalanche story.
No, it's good. So in 2020...
They should have had wind chimes for security. They would have heard the Yeti before.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So in 2020, prosecutor Andre leads an expedition to the location the students were found. They used photographic technology to pinpoint the exact location of the tent. They then compared the landscape and noticed a huge discrepancy. The tent was actually several hundred feet away from where it was originally pitched. So avalanches do not usually happen when the grade is flatter than 30 degrees. So where the tent was pitched, it was actually several hundred feet away from where it was originally pitched. So they think that an avalanche or something like an avalanche pushed the tent from where it was, which I'll show you here in a bit why I don't buy that. So like I said, they don't usually happen in grades flatter than 30 degrees. And the slope where they pitched the tent was 28 degrees. So that's a little bit, slightly a little too shy for them to have a good avalanche.
Yeah.
However, with
the avalanche, if it was an avalanche, how would their eyes and their tongue get ripped out?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I don't necessarily buy this one, because it doesn't really fit all the pieces as much as some other things. I mean, it could be, I'll give my theory at the end, but yeah, I agree. The avalanche doesn't fit all the pieces. The area is known for what's called katabatic winds, which are winds that travel at hurricane speeds at up to 190 miles per hour. So the winds could have picked up some snow and dropped it on their tent. So it could have been so windy that it picked up, a good chunk of snow and dumped it on top of their tent, causing them to frantically attempt to escape. That could have caused them to have to cut the tent to try to get out. So this is the final ruling of Prosecutor Andre and the Russian government what happened. So Prosecutor Andre concluded his investigation saying that they were killed by these katabatic winds, basically dumping a large chunk of snow onto their tent. So most of the people that were close to the hikers and those directly involved doubt the avalanche possibility. And they note the ski poles that were posted outside of the tent were still in place, and an avalanche would have easily knocked them over. And not only that, if the tent was off several hundred feet away from where it was originally pitched, the ski poles and everything else would have been knocked down and pushed over. They wouldn't still have been standing up. So that's why another reason why I don't buy the avalanche stories. But let me show you a picture of the tent after it was smashed with snow and show you the ski poles.
Well, I also feel like with the avalanche, would there be so much snow that we wouldn't have found them for a while? I feel like a lot of people we find avalanche people who have died from an avalanche when the snow started to melt.
Right. Exactly.
And maybe yeah.
But it's also Russia, so there's no telling when the snow would have melted.
That's true. It's severe.
And it's their coldest time, so I don't really buy the snow melting so much. So see, these are ski poles sitting right here that apparently weren't knocked down. And these are tent poles that are still standing here.
The
So-
ski poles aren't. I don't get me wrong, because I'm a Florida native and never been skiing or anything like that. Ski poles, how far in the snow do they
It depends.
stick in order to stand up?
It depends.
Depends on how
Cross-country
tall you are.
skis.
Yeah.
Yeah, cross-country skis are a little different, which those are cross-country skis. So they usually dig in a little deeper. So if I had to guess, the max they dig in is maybe 4 inches, 4.5 inches roughly.
Okay, so yeah, not deep enough for, let's say, a good gust of wind to knock them over or something like that.
Yeah, hefty gust. So it's possible that, somebody set the ski pole back up before they took the picture. I mean, who knows? You know what I mean?
Well, and the ski pole kind of looks like a cross. Like, it doesn't look like your typical cross-country ski pole.
It's 1959. The Jesus ski poles.
Well, it's Russia. They don't believe in God.
Well,
Russians don't believe in God.
No, they had they have the Orthodox Church, but they're communist, and it was very, like, anti-religion.
well, Igor Dyatlov, maybe he did, and he had his,
Yeah,
Jesus ski poles. I don't know.
maybe.
Yeah. So my theory is, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think that the whole fireballs that are reported by several different people, maybe somebody was out cooking breakfast, getting breakfast ready, and
We do
Saw
know
the-
that Yetis like bacon from last episode.
that's right. So
Or
they're
Jersey
cooking
Shore
breakfast.
people.
And they noticed a fireball, and they told some of the people to come out. At that point, maybe a big gust of wind from the fireball landing, caused the snowdrift to land on top of the tent. It caused them to frantically cut out of the tent and run out of it because they're getting chased by alien Yetis that came out of the fireball, and they got disoriented and died.
Chris, correct me if I'm wrong. Any of the UFO stories that we've done, I know we haven't done a lot of them, but how many of them have been preceded by a large fireball?
There's a lot of the ships reported to be like orange fireball type. So there's a lot of reports of that. So I do kind of buy the fireball thing.
And they are coming in with fireballs, huh?
Yeah,
I've never heard of a ship coming in with a fireball.
yeah, it's like an illuminated ship kind of thing, and it kind of appears like a fireball in the sky, but it's like the whole ship's illuminated basically.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, I've heard several reports of those types, so that's why I do buy that a little bit.
Well, I think what's
what do you guys
interesting-
think happened?
is that, there are some that died of hyperthermia, which I think is just saying they got stuck in the snow. So that kind of, avalanche, whatever. But I'm really stuck on these people who have these, like, severe bodily injuries that, like, the eye and the tongue one is so weird. The huge golf ball size thing. No, I think that the eye, the tongue, the gash behind the neck, all of that is what makes me think of, like, murder, Yeti, some sort of, like, foul play that's not an avalanche. Because I can't understand how snow or avalanche can cause that types of things. Like, if somebody got a hole in their neck because they hit something, wouldn't that object be around?
Yeah, that's something for sure. I don't think that it would have been just, unless somebody was involved directly, the stuff would have still been there for sure.
Okay, so I just came up with a theory. What were one of the first animals that the U.S. sent to space?
Monkey.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm going to go with monkey because monkey was also one of them. Anyhow, so the monkey comes back from outer space, lands in Russia in a huge fireball, is coming back with some radiation because we didn't really know what space was about, is now a Yeti, and just goes on a tyrant to kill people because, well, we sent him to outer space without any freaking bananas, and now he's pissed.
Rightfully so.
How do you turn a monkey into a Yeti?
By sending him to outer space and
Magic.
dousing him with radiation.
So here's what some of the bodies. Here's the two of the bodies that were found right up next to each other.
Are they face up or face down?
The first two are face down. That's the first one. Yeah, they're face down. And see how it looks planted. I mean, you're not going to die naturally that way.
Yeah, their hands are over their heads.
Yeah. Here's Igor. He's the one that was hanging onto the tree, and he's headed back towards the tent. I mean, look at that face. That's like a terror face.
Yeah, that's a face of terror.
Saw something that he really did not want to see.
Yeah. Here's the one female.
Yeah, that looks more cold than it does.
Check this out.
Defensive.
The one that was missing the eyes and everything.
Oh, look, the eyes are gone.
The tongue's gone too.
Nope.
That's awesome.
Looks like Michael from Halloween.
I mean, it's just,
That's what I thought it was at first.
Oh, he's beat to hell.
His face is all jacked
yeah.
up.
That's what I'm saying. I just wanted you guys to see that it's the injuries are what's fascinating to me. I mean, to go from happy-go-lucky, because they also, one of the theories, I didn't even mention this, but one of the theories is that there was some issues between the group. But like, you look at
Not
the pictures.
that, I mean, that's massive freaking issues. That's not, hey, you know what, let's go camping together. We have problems.
But look at this was a couple days before this
there's
happened.
There's no problems that.
No, this group is tight knit. I mean, the only guy that's not is the guy that was added last minute. But apparently, because of the journal entries, they talk about how quickly he fell in as like one of the group. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, you could tell by their pictures that they're tight knit. I mean, they're not going to be out there killing each other.
No, that was an outside force. I truly think that the KGB or the Russians had something to do with killing them. I think they stumbled upon a military exercise or a military training.
Yep.
Or what have you. That is not one of the people. That is Olaf. He's missing the bottom.
Yeah. I don't know why they put that together.
That's Olaf investigating the crime scene going, whoa!
Have you two watched Yellow Jackets on Showtime?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God. You got to watch it. Because it's not...
So this one...
It's not this, but it makes me think of it. Oh, yeah, that definitely is.
Yeah, that's a hypothermia.
That's
all day. He's like, God, I'm freezing.
Yeah. I think... Yeah. So I mean...
The one who we said looked terrified, that almost looked like he did see the Yeti, and then the Yeti came up and
finished him off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
He's the one that lost his nose.
Yes. So we'll try to post some of these, but some of these are pretty vulgar, guys. So I'm not gonna probably post a lot of the death photos, for lack of better words. But it's a simple Google search of Dylatov Pass victim photos or something like that. We'll pull it up and you can kind of get lost in the Google search there. It is pretty interesting to see some of them and kind of puts everything into context. But I don't know. So what was your theory, David, of what happened?
I'm almost going with a KGB type Russian military. You know, they came across a test or something like that, or a rocket fell out of the sky that, you know, like Amanda said, during the Cold War. So maybe it had some radiation on it. Maybe it was, you know, they were trying for a nuke or something like that.
They originally, yeah, and originally they said that they didn't test any weapons during that time, but then it came out later that they actually did test weapons roughly in that time. I mean, their testing facilities only like 250 miles from the Dyatlov Pass, one of their testing facilities.
I mean, that's a rocket throw. I mean, I would assume that at that point they would have rockets that could go 250 miles, maybe a little further. And they were just testing it. Maybe one malfunctioned, or that was their, you know, their abort button or what have you. And that's the fireball they saw coming.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible if whether they were aiming it that way or it just went that way. I mean, because it's a mainly barren landscape. I mean, other than the Mansi people, you know,
Yeah. And
it's
I don't know. I'm still dumbfounded with the trauma to the bodies, because that's a lot of trauma to be caused by a human being to another human being.
yep,
Honestly, standing up. I mean, it's
yep,
not like Chuck Norris was out there in the woods. He could have been. I mean,
Mhm.
yeah,
this
for
is Chuck
sure.
Norris we're talking about. He made the world spin.
Yeah,
With one roundhouse kick, he could turn the world the opposite direction.
yep,
But it's a lot of trauma. So,
it,
I'm not thinking bear. I'm dumbfounded because
yeah.
the
I don't buy the
physical
bear.
trauma compared to like I guess the tearing trauma that a bear or a tiger or something would do. It's not just going to kill you for sport.
No,
Yeah.
These animals they kill for food, especially if they're hibernating and they stumble across a I don't want to a den. You know, you wake the bear up. The bear's going to get pissed off. It's going to kill you, but it's going to be hungry because it's mid hibernation, so it's going to eat a little bit too.
yep. And it could have been that the 4 that were together were abducted by aliens because that 4 was the one that had the most injuries. They could have been
Right.
abducted by aliens and then dropped out of the ship, and the other
Right.
ones were out there searching for them, and they couldn't find them. Why they
Yeah.
didn't go put all their clothes on. That was the other thing. They ran so fast away from that tent, they didn't even properly get dressed to leave the
See,
tent.
something had to spook them
Yep.
in the tent.
Yep.
Because, hey, Chris, you and I have been camping. Amanda, you've been camping. You're not going to bolt out of your freaking tent in underwear.
Not unless there's something serious, and even if
Not right. Not
there
unless
was
I've
an
got something on my rear end.
right, if there's an avalanche and the thing gets dumped with
Yeah.
snow on it, the first thing I'm gonna do is go put more clothes on, dig in that tent,
Yeah.
somehow get the
Yeah.
clothes on I need, and then I'm gonna go search to make sure everybody else in my party's okay.
I mean,
Right.
like
I'm not
most of the
Right. You don't
time,
want to kill
you're
yourself.
sleeping in a mummy bag where you're sleeping with like your clothes right next to you, so you can throw them on if you have to.
Yeah. Yeah, or
So
it like, I
yeah,
would put them in my sleeping bag because it's kinda like
yep.
extra padding, and I wouldn't have them on my body, but they would be in my sleeping bag with me,
Well,
stuffed in
until you
there.
don't want a frozen pair of pants that you're sliding on after coming out of a warm
Right.
sleeping
Exactly,
bag.
exactly.
Yeah, you
So
can
I
just
just
fall asleep with your clothes on.
well, I couldn't do that, but
You're not actually supposed to sleep with your clothes on
you
when you're
sweat.
sleeping like that because it will make you cold. You're supposed to like this is camping for you all folks that don't live in Colorado. And you have a mummy bag which is like fit to like perfectly fit you. So you're like a mummy basically. And it's made of material that you're supposed to be so hot that it like keeps you warm. So like they recommend like as like a woman I sleep in like my sports bra and shorts or whatever.
Yep.
So
Yep, I've heard that too. I mean, I've stuffed the clothes in the bag with me, but I'm definitely not wearing
yeah.
them because you get too warm in there and you start sweating and get out in that cold air, you're gonna be hurting.
Mhm.
Yeah, then you're
Yep.
dead.
Yep. So, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I have several different theories, but it's a fascinating
Yeah.
story, and I don't think, honestly, guys, I don't think they'll ever fully close this case unless somebody discloses something that's not
Unless the Yeti
previously
walks
known.
out of the woods and says, I did it.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so Chris, you said that you can go up there now and like do they have a memorial and do people hike up there to try to reenact it or
Yeah. Yeah. Just recently in 2019, I believe, I don't know if he still is, but at the time, the Russian prosecutor, like lead prosecutor, he took an expedition up there. And then also a couple different documentary filmmakers have also made trips up there. And there is a monument up there that was put up back in not long after the incident happened. And then, but yeah, you can go there now. And the victims are all buried in the same place. And actually, the guy that was cut didn't make the whole trip. He had to turn back halfway through. He actually requested to be buried with them as well. So he's actually buried with them now as well, like basically right
wow.
next to where they're buried. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. Another little fun fact is the Russian government tried to make the funeral not happen in the town where the kids were all from. They were tried really hard to make the funeral not happen there and make it happen like further away. And the family fought friends fought so hard they did end up having it. Apparently, it was like the huge funeral, like thousands and thousands of people attended the funeral, and that was what the government was trying to avoid because communism at the time, they were trying to keep the government because they were on the radar of being a cause of what happened to them. So they were trying to
Right.
let bygones be bygones and the story fizzle out. So it's just interesting facts like that kind of make me think that the government knows more about it than they're leading on, and whether they'll actually ever, fully disclose is another story. It's no different than our government and the stuff they keep from us.
I mean, so yes, and we have their bodies, right? So honestly, someone could go request to dig up a body and test it for radiation and stuff, right? Because that's still in the bones.
Yeah, and they
Like,
did
I've seen
test at
bones.
the time. They did test at the time, so they they said some of the clothes had signs of radiation, but the bodies, you know what? I don't think they did test the bodies. I take that back. I think they tested the clothes, but not the bodies. So theoretically, they could dig them up and test for radiation. That's probably the only thing they test because I'm sure they wash the bodies. I think that's part of their culture to wash the body prior to burial.
Yeah.
But
I would think you could test the body for more than just radiation.
yeah, but you
Well, you
could,
have
but
just
they
the
kind of
bones
like
left. That's all you'd have.
yeah, the skin and everything else be gone. Now they just pretty much like you said, the bones.
I don't know about that because the snow and everything like that preserves really well the body. I mean, it's almost like putting it in a refrigerator or freezer and freezing it. So,
Well, now though,
you say,
but I don't think do they bury in the ground or do they bury in in mausoleums?
I believe
Well,
they're
back
in the
then-
ground. They're in the ground. They have a nice, big, huge like monument, but I believe they're in the ground. So
I'd be interested to know how their bodies fare right now.
yeah, there's probably something crazy saying you can't dig the bodies up, and the government won't allow it. Though I guarantee you, they're blocking it somehow.
Oh, I'm sure you don't want to uncover a Russian conspiracy. God forbid.
Right?
Huh.
Yeah, I thought this was a fitting story to go through. I've always been fascinated by this story, and among others, and I figured
It's a
it was
very like just what happened. Like I want to know. What happened?
It's a true crime kind of story, but it's also got some conspiracies attached with it, which a lot of true crimes have anyway. So, but that's all I have, guys. It's been fun.
I just looked up Russian traditions, burial traditions, so I'm sure the FBI will be knocking on my door any day now, anytime.
Amanda, since you were Russian royalty, I thought you already knew about all that stuff.
I mean,
Yeah, you should already know.
Well, I mean, these are peasants. Like the way they bury the royals, very different, very, very different. Cathedrals and all that shit. I mean, it's very different.
That's true. The royals get like their last bath
And-
and all that.
And honestly, I mean, although I was Russian royal, I actually came from the Queen Victoria line. So, I mean, it's a little weird. Yeah. Good points.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, guys, I appreciate it. That was very
so
good
cool.
episode. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a very
So-
good episode.
Chris, is there a movie about this?
There's a couple of like little budget movies, and there's several documentaries. I've never watched the movie because I heard one of them's like a, what do they call that? The shaky camera type movies, like a Blair Witch type movie.
Ugh.
And then I think
No,
there's
they
some other ones that are more legit, kind of serious, and then there's several documentaries. I kind of stuck with some of the newer documentaries, and there's a couple episodes like Mysterious something or another that Lawrence Fishburne does on History Channel. They just recently did an episode on this on History Channel. And then like I said, there's that Tubi channel that I watched that has some good documentaries on it as well.
Oh, there's a
So
horror
there's
film called Devil's Pass, which is about it.
Yeah,
But
might
they
be
like
the shaky camera one.
rechanged it. And it's about 5 Oregon college students set off to find out what happened to the 9 mysterious hikers.
Oh,
Dun,
so
dun,
it's like a
dun.
wow. That might be a fun one to watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have to check
They-
that out.
End up hanging out with Sergey and 73-year-old Ayla. I don't know what they have to do with this, but I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us on this episode. We're going to definitely try to squeeze one more out before our in-person one together coming up at the end of this month.
I always try to squeeze one more out, but that's just because I have regular bowel movements.
Fair enough.
And just
So-
threw up.
I want to remind everybody to check us out on Instagram and like and share us, please. We need some love on that. And give us a rate
Tell
and
your
review on your
friends.
podcast. Yes, tell your friends. Tell everybody about us. Tell your coffee maker. Tell your barista to make more sense. Tell your carpenter. Tell everybody. Tell your coworker.
Tell
we
the
got
guy
some
at the gas
stickers.
station that you're complaining
Yeah.
about the gas prices with. Say, this
Yeah,
sucks,
tell
but
your
you know
beer
what
guy.
doesn't? This podcast.
Yeah, we got some stickers. Leave us a rate and review on your podcast host of choice, preferably Apple, because it's hard to see them on a lot of the others other than Apple and Spotify. If you leave us a 5-star on one of those two, I will definitely hook you up with some stickers. Give us a good rate and review, and we will catch you on the next one.
Bye,
We'll
friends.
see everyone. See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Till the next one.
Hey yo, it's Amanda here. We can't wait to learn with you what next week's topic is going to be because David is going to be sharing an awesome conspiracy theory topic that he wants to keep a surprise from all of us. So tune in next time. We promise it will be good. Thanks for listening. Ciao.